Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Three Things on Monday podcast with your host, Stephanie Strong. And I'm so happy that you are joining us on today, Monday. Wow, I can't believe we are already in May. And I just can imagine just amazing things happening for you and for me and for everyone that's out there just really trying to move forward in this year and transition through season changes and all of that. Well, I am especially grateful for today to welcome my guest, Nola Peacock. And we're going to have a conversation today about children and about education and about how we can cultivate some crucial skills for children in need. And Nola Peacock is the person that we will glean from her experience and her wisdom. And so I want to invite you to welcome my guest, Nola Peacock. Hi, Nola.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. And so I tell you, I'm really excited about this conversation, Nola. Well, anytime we get a chance to center the needs of children, it's just an exciting opportunity. And I'm just really in awe of your passion to doing the work that you are doing now. And so just a little introduction for our listeners. And so I'm just going to share some of Nola's biography, and then we're going to jump right into the conversation. So Nola has spent the tenor of her career as a pediatric oncology nurse. And through that experience and working with families during the most challenging times, she now supports parents to be conscious and effective parents so that kids can feel confident and happy and resilient. And I can't think of a better platform and or mission, if you will, to be able to have a hand in making sure that children are feeling confident, particularly if they have found themselves in or they're in adverse situations. But so Nola offer programs to teach them particular strategies that's going to help them to be able to advocate for themselves and take responsibility for their actions and to develop supportive friendships. Those social circles are everything, and we're grateful that Nola is doing this kind of work. And so part of what Nola is doing is to really help children to be able to make decisions and take responsibility for their actions and to become kind and conscientious and successful young adults. And so there's a little bit about Nola, but Nola can talk about Nola better than anyone else. So I am going to open our conversation with a question that I think will help us bring Nola's story to our global listening audience. And so Nola, if you will, would you kindly just tell us about what brings you to this moment? What brings you to this moment, and what has inspired you to move in the direction you're going in this season of your life?
Well, I have always loved working with kids. It started as a teenager teaching piano, and I would listen to the kids, of course, when they came to me from school, and I would hear about their being stressed about exams or their fight with their friend or whatever. And so a lot of it was mentoring these young kids. And then I became a pediatric oncology nurse. And I think that really changed me. It really opened my eyes, and it kind of allowed me to look at the big picture, right? So, I would think about, watch these families as they, went through treatment. And, it's like during that time, homework, it really didn't matter. And the clean room, all of those things that, we as parents, I know we can get frustrated, with our kids about. It's like, you know what? It really doesn't matter. Like, it's just having that time and creating special memories with these kids. And I still remember, one of my patients, bless her heart, she's passed away, unfortunately, but she was 14 at the time, and I was a young nurse. I was in my early 20s, and had a lot to learn. And I remember, kind of grumbling because, I had to work. I think it was, Christmas Eve, and I was feeling sorry for myself, right? And she said to me, "Well, at least you get to go home." And that just hit me. I'm like, she's right. She's right. So again, I flipped my perspective. It's like I really wanted to, acknowledge what these kids were going through. And, what I learned with working with these young kids is, I would really see where they were at, right? I would meet them there. And it was okay if they were, grumpy or miserable, right? It's like, I thought you have every right to be with what you're going through. And so by doing that, a lot of these kids, they would allow me to do procedures, right, that they would fight other nurses with, right?
Mhm.
And, even the kids that, sometimes, other nurses would say, "Oh, this kid's so difficult." It was like, I would look and go, what do you mean? No, they're not. But so it really taught me about, meeting kids where they are, where they're at, and
Yeah.
and seeing um their genius and their just the gift that they are. And so, when I had my own kids and would hear, their friends and stuff saying, "Oh, I wish I wasn't here," or, I had a girlfriend and her son was 9 years old and he was cutting. It's like, oh, I've got to do something. Like, this isn't right. The kids need the skills to manage the stress in their life. And, they should be able to just be kids and have fun and not be
Yeah.
stressed out. So that's really where, and I've just continued because I keep seeing kids that are struggling and unhappy, and right, or they not confident, and they just kind of follow along. And it's like, no, no,
Yeah,
you've got.
that is very interesting, and that so many times we are so unaware of the challenges that children are going through. We are so unaware. I'm just, aside from the parents, of course, but just the general public in and of itself is so unaware of the challenges that children face. Is there a personal story that you have that really just made you just stand up and pay attention and lock in on these particular challenges, not so much as patients that you have, but other children that you notice, well, wow, they can really use some support and guidance. Do you have a story? Can you locate a story in your own personal life that helps bring to light the need for more of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think of one teenager that I worked with, and she had actually attempted suicide and had gone through the program at our local children's hospital. And so this was a little while after, and and I was talking with her, and she said to me, and I mean, this just blew me away, but she said, "You're the only one who gets me." And
Wow.
that just broke my heart, right? And I think, part of it, I have struggled with depression. So I really do get it, what that's like.
Mhm.
And but it broke my heart. It's like these kids, and lots of kids like, they tell me they don't want to worry their parents. So often their parents, don't know, never mind other people, because they try and hide things, right? And I've seen kids, and their arms are scarred up because of cutting, and they're always wearing long sleeves, or if they have cutting on their thighs, they wear longer shorts or pants or whatever, and covered up, and don't let people in. And I think a big part of it is because they don't feel understood. So that's, one of the big things that I really focus on with parents is listening at a really deep level, and without judgment, and just allowing kids to express it. And they love their parents, they tell me, and they don't want them to worry, and they see that often their parents are stressed about finances, or work, or other things, and so they don't want to add to it, and so they keep things quiet. So
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine that some of the societal pressures and societal pressures and even social sort of demands on children, because a good part of their development is their own social identity, how they fit in, how they're accepted, and what have you. And I'm just curious, in working with children from diverse backgrounds, this, which is what you do, and is there one particular a story of transformation that you can share with us?
Sure. It was another teen, and she really, did not have a great home life, right? She was really kind of finding her own way. And, we worked together for a while, and I would have her do little exercises and journal, and she'd kind of come back and just I really saw a shift in her, and she started believing in herself again. And also she wanted to kind of pay it forward. She wanted to help other young girls, right? And that was kind of her her long-term goal, that as she finished school and stuff, that she wanted to be able to reach out and help other young girls to believe in themselves, and to and to feel confident, and to do what they are here to do. So
Yeah, yeah. That's really that's impressive. I'm really thinking about social media now, and how much time children are spending on social media. What would you say about how parents can help sort of diffuse, if you will, I'll use that word loosely, diffuse some of the comparison, the comparison self-worth dynamic. How can parents either diffuse it or help, navigate their child through those pressures, because social media, we all are being affected by social media, and kids spend an exorbitant amounts of time on social media, and so a lot of the incidents that are happening with children, a lot of that has been influenced by their own ability to see their self-worth or in comparison to other youths. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I guess the first thing is to, do your best to limit, their time on their electronics. And that sometimes that starts with, us as parents, right? Because I often, out for dinner and you see the whole family and they're on their phones. It's like, like that's not the best way to do it, right? So as much as you can, try and limit that. Certainly, like at night, I think that all of the electronics should be out of the bedroom. But then, helping the kids to feel good about themselves. And so, that family time, one of the things that kids tell me they want more of, and this is even teenagers, is one-on-one time with their parents.
Yeah.
So, having that, and it doesn't have to be like, a great big extravagant, full day or a holiday or something. It can just be, 15, 20 minutes, but really focusing on them, and doing fun things, like, getting outside and doing things, or, looking at photo albums, or, things like that. And I mean, kids love hearing about themselves. So that's one of the tips I say to parents to help with boosting confidence. If you sit and look at a photo album going, oh, remember when you did this? And, oh, I was so proud of you when you did, right? And so, that's a great thing. Or if they hear their parents talking to someone else, but, kind of bragging about them, right? Telling their friend that, oh, right. Hearing those kind of things is helpful. And then, again, and then watching self-talk, right? So we as parents, I mean, how many times, right? It's like, oh, these pants are tight. I put on too much weight or whatever, or, oh, that was so stupid. What did I, what was I thinking? So it's catching ourselves around our self-talk, and then paying attention to what our kids are saying. Because, I still remember I was teaching a workshop, and this one little 6-year-old boy, and he went and he was colored something on his friend's poster, and he thought he was being helpful, but his friend got upset. And so this little boy ran across the room and plunked himself down in the corner and he's like, oh, I hate myself. I'm always messing up. I'm like, oh my goodness, right? Like at 6, no. So, but I mean, it gave us a great opportunity for the whole group to talk about, what are the things that we say to ourselves, and, let's turn it around. So I teach kids how to pivot those, negative self-talk. So that's, another thing that parents can help
Yeah,
their
yeah.
kids do. Mm-hmm.
That's so good. That's so good, Nola, because it's totally needed. I'm thinking as you were talking, I was thinking about my grandsons. I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old grandson, and I actually had them over this weekend, and so that quality time with them is really important. My oldest grandson, he is really big on quality time. So if I was sitting in the living room watching television and I said, well, I'm going to go in my room for a few minutes. Well, Mimi, how long are you going to be? He is, I know, right? He's so wanting to make sure that he's connecting with his family. And my youngest grandson, he's a connector too. He's a connector too. But I call him he's my wilderness warrior. Right? He's like, so he loves to be outside. But I'm really just thinking about how parents, how if parents of multiple children, they all have different personalities and they have different needs, and some may be affected by social media. Some may just may be unbothered altogether with social media, but the comparison thing really is a big deal on how children judge themselves, right? And I really like what you said about make the self-talk, because children, when they're just tape recorders, they're just picking up everything that we say, what they hear on television and everything. And you hear those things. I hate myself. I just want to die. This is not working. And to be able to, for parents to take note of that and say, let me teach you how to pivot around that. And that's what I'm hearing. You say you're teaching parents how to teach their children how to pivot. And coaching, we call it reframing it so that it says more of what they want, right? And so thank you so much for sharing that. And so I'm just curious also, Nola, I mean, like the work that you're doing is so tremendous. How are the experiences of those you serve continue to spark benevolence in service to humanity and the generous giving from you? Like, how does that continue as like a cycle or a way of life for you? I'm curious to hear more about that.
Well, I think, it's a ripple effect, right? So, when I work with a child or with parents and, and see that shift. I mean, I had, one family that I worked with, and, I was working specifically with one of their daughters. But when I work with a family, I give parents homework as well. And one of the things is taking care of themselves, doing something to nurture themselves. And I still remember, this one girl, and she was coming, weekly, and I'd given the parents, I said, you've got to do one thing this week for yourself. And she came in, one of her first comments was, my mom and dad were happier this week. Right. And then you hear about even the siblings, right? They're getting along better. And so, knowing that that this work, it brings more harmony to the entire family. Right. And I just think, and then I think of, them creating these special memories together. Like I encourage families, to celebrate, right? And even kids, that's one of the things, if they get a homework assignment done, like often, especially when kids are really, they want good marks and, they really push themselves to do things. It's like they do one assignment and then they're on to the next. But it's like, well, stop and, celebrate, look at what you just did. Right. And so again, that's helping them to feel good about themselves. But it's also like, I think as society, it's important that we do celebrate the things that we do and acknowledge ourselves. It's like, wow, that was a lot of work. I did that. Yay, me. And so, when I see these kids and these families and, they're happier and they're having more fun, and, that warms my heart. So I just, want to keep going and just
Yeah.
spread more of that love, because then I know, right, that they are affecting the people around them, right? It's not,
Yes, yes. Oh
just
no, I just so love that. I love that so much because I think sometimes we look at how do we change the world and make the world a better place. And we look at it as this big, vast, not only universe and world, but that it's a huge task. It's a huge task, and no one single person can do it alone. But the way that you just described this ripple effect that your work is an impact that your work is having on families, and it's spreading out. That's the thing that I really want people to understand, because this whole podcast is really about lifting up leaders who are making a difference in the world around them, right? And so I can imagine that as you are just cultivating harmony and self-esteem and better ways for children to communicate and better way for parents to engage their children, that not only are the parents and the children being helped, but then they are going out into the world with new energy and new self awareness and self confidence that impacts even the children that they engage, or even other adults that they engage. And this is what we this is I think this is a palpable moment in history now, because there's so much going on many different levels, that we can really make the world a better place around us by tapping into our heart center, our love center, and then pouring out and giving from that space, because it's in those moments when you're making a difference that you can make a difference in the world. You're making a difference in one person's life, you start to make a difference in the world. And I just think that is so beautiful, that you are using your gifts, your experiences, and even some of your challenges to help shape a new way for children to show up in the world. And so it just briefly, if you can just help us better understand, like, your desire to become a coach, a mentor, or to create programs for school-age children and their parents. I'm curious about the challenges, like as an oncology nurse, as a mother, how did those challenges sort of inform your decision to say, you know what, I'm taking this outward. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, being a pediatric oncology nurse, I thought, okay, like, I know kids. So when I became a mom, I'm like, I kind of thinking, I got this. Well, when they're yours and they're 24/7, oh my goodness, it's quite a different thing. So again, I had lots to learn. And of course, because my love of kids, and I'd always wanted to be a mom. So I read books, and I, took workshops, and I just wanted to be the very best mom I could be. And yet my own son struggled with depression and was suicidal. And so helping to support him through that, and what I learned through that whole process was just how important it is to listen to your intuition and trust, right? Rather than always going outside and looking for the answers, right? Because my son was seeing a psychologist, and I was doing all of the things that, I knew that I should do, I guess. And it wasn't enough. And so once I started really listening to my intuition and sitting with my son and really listening to him, we figured out together, what helped him through this the most was music, both listening to music, but also playing the guitar and composing his own lyrics. And that was his way to work through his feelings. And and as I'd mentioned before, like some of his friends were saying, oh, I hate my life, I don't want to be here. And other kids cutting. And I'm like, this is wrong. It shouldn't be this difficult for kids. So, once my son was doing better, and he taught me so many things, it's like, I need to, create a program and start helping these other kids. And when I did one of my very first workshops, I did it in my home. My son had been downstairs, but right at the end, he came upstairs, And so a couple of the moms were there. They said, "Hey, can we ask you some questions?" And he's, "Oh, sure." And he sat down, and I was kind of like, "Oh no, like, what is he going to say?" But the one asked, they said, "What did your mom do that helped you? And what did she do that drove you crazy?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he said that what helped him was that I had just, kind of allowed him to be where he was, right? And help him to, just allow him to work through things at his own pace. What drove him crazy was other people pushing him, because there was so much push to, you got to go to school, you got to go to school. And that wasn't helpful. So I took a great big sigh of relief, like, oh, okay. Right. And yeah, and then it was just, I want to help these other kids. It's just, there's too many of them that I'm hearing just in my space that are unhappy. So
wow, wow, wow. What a journey. What a journey. Well, I'm so glad that you shared that story about your son and your first workshop being in your home. And so that brings me to another question that I know the listening audience is itching to hear about. And that is about your conscious care plan. Tell us about your conscious care plan and how people who may be interested in connecting with you can become a part of that.
okay. Well, my conscious care plan started after I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And my very first thought when my doctor said, "You have cancer," was, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to die." Now, as a nurse, I knew that that wasn't true, right? But that was where my mind went. And I thought, right? I need to walk my talk. So I've been teaching kids about mindset and looking for, the opportunities instead of obstacles and that positive self-talk. And I thought, okay, so I've got to put something in place here to make sure that I'm doing, the things that I teach these kids. So that was when the conscious care plan came into place. And it was for me just being really conscious of what I was thinking, where are my thoughts going? How am I talking? Right. Because even I wanted to go through my cancer journey with love, not with, not in fear, right?
Yeah.
Because that triggers our fight or flight response, which isn't helpful.
Yeah.
And so, I really focused on, my language and, which is what I teach kids, and having affirmations and visualizations. So kind of brought it to there, and really, nurturing myself. And that's something that, as I mentioned before, that I teach kids about celebrating and being good to themselves, and having parents take care of themselves, do things for themselves. So, that's where that kind of came from. But it's something that, I realize for all of us, right, that it's so important that we consciously make choices each day. What are we putting in our body, whether it's, food, or what are we listening to, or what thoughts are we thinking? But it's being very aware of those things, and, and again, reframing or pivoting when we need to. So, yeah, so I love helping people put that into place. And again, it's setting, whether it's kids or the parents, setting you up for success, so that, you really focus on the things that you want to, and not get bogged down in it.
Absolutely. So do you have anything coming up that people can get connected to, or just how can people contact you and learn more about what you have to offer?
Well, for your listeners, I've created a special link to book a call with me for 20 minutes, and we will, kind of go through some of your challenges, things that are holding you back, or your kids, things that struggles with your kids, and then we'll come up with a little mini conscious care plan, so that you can start, right away, putting these things into place, and turning things around, and getting things the way that you want.
Okay. Well, is there, do you have the link that you can just sort of talk it out? And then when people are viewing the episode, this particular episode, they can go, I'll make sure I put it in the comments or put it in the description so people can connect with you there. But just, can they connect with you on social media? Can they connect with you through the link too? So we want to make sure they have that link. Yes. Okay. So give us that link.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? If they just email me,
okay,
and let them know, and let me know that they've listened to 3 things on Monday.
Okay.
So it's Nola at nolapeacockcoaching.com.
Okay. That's Nola, Nola, at Nola
Peacock, which is Peacock,
coaching.
coaching.com.
.com. Nola at nolacoaching.com. Did you guys get that? Nola at nolacoaching.com. Make sure you email Nola and she can get you connected to our program, because this work is so valuable and it's so needed, more so now than ever before, because kids are just so hugely impacted these days, and it's just a wonder. It's a blessing, and it's a wonderful opportunity for children and parents to be able to work together and navigate through some of those challenges, some of those adverse challenges that they are experiencing. And again, Nola, I think the work that you're doing is just so amazing. And as we are looking at like how can the world, how can we help children to become more healthy and more socially adept, if you will, and to help them to be confident. That's the thing. And so, Nola, we are very grateful that you have the conscious care plan, because I can just imagine that schools need this. Schools need this.
Yes.
Schools need this. Oh my goodness, schools need this. And so, Nola, I want to say thank you so much for just sharing your story, the scope of the work that you're doing, along with how people can get connected with you. And some of those stories have just been so heartwarming and touching. And I'm just curious now, because this is Three Things on Monday. So I always like to leave the audience with 3 gems that you would like for the audience or the listeners to take with them out of this conversation. 3 gems.
Okay. Well, the first one, and this is something I always say to people, is always follow your heart. And what I mean by that is really trusting your inner wisdom, your intuition, that inner guidance. Listen to that. The second is to be curious, right? And whether that's, about your child or other people, but, like listening to their stories, right, I think is so important. And, with our kids, it's like, listening to what they have to say and getting to know them, because as you said, they're all different, right? So really being curious. And then also, if you're having struggles, it's being curious as to what solutions are out there, because I believe that's one thing that my son taught me, is there is always an answer, right? We don't have to follow what society necessarily lays out for us. Like sometimes we've got to go a little bit different pathway. So be curious about that. And then the third gem, I just be kind, right? Just be kind.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard these 3 nuggets. I mean, like, how can you go wrong with following your heart? Being curious. That's one of my favorite things to say. Be curious and be kind. And those are such powerful, they're imperatives, but they're also directives, if you will, to go out there and to be your best. And what better time than now to really implement these 3 things that you have shared with us. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to the 3 Things on Monday podcast. But before we sign off, I'd like to share with you an opportunity for women leaders who are 40 plus to claim your confidence. I am having an online webinar, free online webinar, emphasis on the free, on May 19th at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. And I'm going to be talking about 3 essential keys to monetize your efforts and get what you deserve for your hard, dedicated work. And so I am going to be talking more about that, but I wanted you to lock that date in on May 19th at 11:30 a.m. And I will also put a link, a sign up link in the description in the comments of the platforms that you may be watching this podcast. So we thank you so much for tuning in to Three Things on Monday podcast with your host, Stephanie Strong, and my special guest, Nola Peacock. We're taking away so much from this. Nola, once again, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, have yourself the most amazing day, and be sure that you take advantage of these 3 gems. So follow your heart, be curious, and be kind. And until next time, take care and be well.
Thank you. That was awesome. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, you are too. So glad. I mean, like, I feel like, man, like this is, they need this, like the schools need this, especially with, I don't know what's happening over, are you in the UK?
No, in Canada.
Oh, you're in Canada. But over here, the number one cause of children's death is gun violence. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I can imagine just how this can be a benefit in so many ways. Yeah. All right, Nola. Well, listen, thank you so
Thank you
very much.
And I'm going to go put May 19th in my calendar. That sounds awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and have yourself a great day.
You too.